Her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. What an insane statement. We have got lots to cover in this video, but there's comments on Asha. There's Asha's comments on AI solving fertility rates. What? Also, she's defending herself, saying she's not an AI bot. We'll get onto that. But look at this. That is a damning statement there. Xbox will be sunsetted under new CEO, original co-founder expects. Her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. What a quote. Microsoft's pivot to AI has well and truly reached Xbox OG console design and reasons. Hello, yeah. So I'm editing this video and I'm like, I've just spent an hour calling Seamus or reading Seamus as Seamus. My mind is literally gone. I apologize. His name is Seamus. I'm going to call him Seamus in this video over and over again. I'm an idiot. Original Xbox co-founder and console designer Seamus Blackley reckons it's no coincidence that Microsoft installed a core AI executive like Asha Sharma as the new CEO of its gaming arm. Rather, he sees Sharma's promotion as a sign that non-AI businesses like Xbox will be sunsetted as Microsoft invests wholly into AI as its ultimate source or solution to absolutely everything. Now, we've got to talk about AI in this context because the returns these companies are getting whenever they spend capex on AI is fucking massive. At the moment, a deal has just been announced between Meta and AMD. AMD are providing 60 billion worth of chips and all of that stuff, and also 10% of their company in some crazy $100 billion deal to Meta, so Meta can build more compute. As of recording this video, AMD were up over 10% in market share. Billions and billions get made. Now, Microsoft, it would be nice if they could spend their money, you know, that they spent the 60-odd or 69 billion on Activision Blizzard on AI CapEx spend, because they'd get more return. See, that's the problem with all this stuff at the moment. These companies want as much money as possible to pump into AI endeavors because it is juicing their stock value. So speaking with GamesBeat, we will go over to this article in a moment, but we'll just carry on with this one for now. Blackley sized up the future of Xbox following seismic leadership changes that include the retirement of gaming boss Phil Spencer, the departure of president and presumed Spencer's replacement, Sarah Bond, and the appointment of Sharma despite her inexperience with games and short Microsoft tenure. Xbox, like a lot of businesses that aren't the core AI business, is being sunsetted, he said. They don't say that, but that's what's happening. I expect that the new CEO, Asha Sharma, her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. Blackley also expressed some confusion at Sharma's appointment, concluding that the logical explanation is that Microsoft, especially CEO Satya Nadella, wanted an AI person for what's viewed as an AI job. Remember as well, Microsoft have got models which generate AI gameplay. So, I mean, you have to connect all of this together. I imagine asking somebody if it made sense to put a major motion picture studio in the hands of somebody who didn't like movies, or a major record label in the hands of somebody who'd never seen a live show. Blackley said, why would you do that? Well, you only do that if you're looking at the problem in a more abstract way. The natural consequences of the focus on AI is that AI abstracts every problem from the minds of the executives who believe in it. We're abstracting the problem of games as well. There's a core belief, and you can see it in what Satya said, that AI will subsume games like it will subsume everything. Okay, before we jump onto the GamesBeat article, this is what Asha is saying about all of you're an AI bot or you're using AI-generated responses. Before I show her a response, I actually think what's happening here is she doesn't have any gaming experience. She's trying to catch up. She's trying to learn on the job. Obviously, that's one of her fortes. She's very fast at learning. She wouldn't be in this position if she couldn't do that. But she's also probably taking prompts and, you know, info off people at Xbox who are gamers. You know, when she says things like, yeah, I played GoldenEye and all this kind of stuff. Halo's my favorite game, you know, blah, 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 blah. I played Firewatch, you know. Anyway, this is what she says, right, in response to this. Do I believe that AI is writing Asha Sharma's post? No. Do I believe that an experienced gamer on the Xbox team may be helping her sound more like a real gamer? Yeah, which again, I agree with. Do I think it's a bad idea for her to try and fake this? Yeah. And again, it's almost pointless, right? If you're not a gamer, just step away. You don't have to You don't have to come in and pretend that you are, or don't worry, guys, I'm going to catch up. This is something where people have spent decades and decades invested in these franchises. You can't come off as you're a great super duper fan when you're simply not. It's like a strange attitude. Anyway, she says this: I agree. Faking would be a terrible idea and wouldn't work. I also didn't expect my gamer tag to blow up, and the reality is more boring. I created it recently to learn and understand this world. I've played with my family, and it's a shared home account across devices, which you can see in the range of games and achievements. Fix that this weekend, and everyone is playing on their own gamer tags. I mean, do people even refer to them as GTs? I don't know. Gran Turismo, mate. Anyway, but I get where this is coming from. I don't pretend to be the best gamer, and even though I'm playing, that's still not my goal. My focus is to make Xbox the best place to play, return to our roots, ship great things, and become strong for the future. And yes, I'm writing my own post, so make of that what you will. Okay, let's get stuck into this, right? So this is on GamesBeat. What an Xbox founder thinks of the new Xbox CEO, Seamus Blackley interview, and there is the man in question. So, Seamus Blackley was one of the renegades who got Xbox started before it became a corporate thing endorsed by Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer more than 26 years ago. He was a game developer who pushed the frontiers of gaming and wanted the US to launch a console just as Sega gave up and Sony and Nintendo were locking up the market. Blackley, an unlikely group of Microsoft employees, including Otto Burke, Ted Hasse, again, I'm going to butcher your names, I do apologize, Nate Brown, Ed Fries, and Kevin Brackus, got the intention of Gates with a plan to use the PC to take away the throne of console leadership from Sony. There were competing teams within Microsoft, but Blackley and Fries gave the effort a lot of cred, I suppose. Street cred. Creed would be double E, wouldn't it? I'm an idiot, whatever. I've had a long day when it comes to winning over the game developers and gamers. Anyway, many of those founders, including Blackley and the 4 generations of leaders who came after him, have since left Microsoft, and now their baby is landing in the hands of Asha Sharma, an outsider to the game industry who has focused a career on AI. Microsoft announced Sharma will replace Xbox CEO Phil Spencer, and Chief Operating Officer and President Sarah Bond is leaving the company. She will team up with number 2 exec Matt Booty, a game veteran who will be the link to all of Microsoft Game Studios. Now, I'm going to move on to a Verge article after we go through this, and this will explain why Sarah Bond is leaving. Now, that article can in some ways be viewed as a bit of a hit piece, or she's being set up as the fall guy for all of this mess. But there's a lot you can read into it. Basically, she was behind the Xbox Anywhere or Everything's an Xbox campaign, which obviously was tragic. Only maybe Don Matrix Xbox exploits are worse, but whatever. Almost 25 years ago, the coalition of renegades grew until the full force of Microsoft, then the leading tech company in the world, got behind it. Xbox launched in 2001. I was going to say 2021, no, in 2001, and it proceeded to lose around $4 billion in its first generation. But with each generation, Microsoft learned and changed and tried to innovate faster than its rivals. Back in the day, I interviewed all of the leaders and wrote a couple of books on the Xbox business. Xbox Live enabled Microsoft to get an edge in online gaming. The Xbox 360 was a breakout success, except for the red rings of death that led to electrical failures. And I did have that happen on the first Xbox 360 I had, which was sad, because I was playing Oblivion on it at the time. It was very sad. Anyway, the Xbox team lost its footing, and also liked Viva Pinata. Did anyone ever play that? It was legendary. What a game. The Xbox team lost its footing with the Xbox One. Yes, hello, Don Matrick, which focused on entertainment over games. Then Phil Spencer, who started at Microsoft as an intern and was part of the original Xbox launch team, took over. Spencer ushered in the latest console, the Xbox Series X and S, and pushed for Microsoft's Game Pass subscriptions, cloud gaming efforts, and cross-platform play. He engineered the $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Blackley went on to a career of working for game devs at the CAA and has spent a lot of time lately working on new technologies enabled by physics research. I caught up with Blackley to extract some wisdom about Microsoft's journey in games, what he thinks Sharma should do, and where gaming can go next. Part of his message is hopeful, but Blackley sees a lot of peril on the road that Microsoft is following, and it makes him worry about the future of gaming. It's very ominous the way he's staring on the screen here. I can sympathise with the concern about authenticity. On the other hand, almost all the new gaming startups these days are getting funding because they have an AI angle. Why can't Microsoft do that too? Okay, so there's Blackley in his CAA days. Right, let's get stuck into this. So, tell me what you mean about how things are going. From Microsoft, Satya Nadella has made an incredible number of bets and invested an incredible amount of money and credibility into the transform model AI future. Xbox, like a lot of businesses that aren't the core AI business is being sunsetted. They don't say that, but that's what's happening. I expect that the new CEO, Asha Sharma, her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. It just seems really true. I imagine somebody, if it made sense to put, I won't read that because we've already read that, haven't we, from the other article? So I'll just leave that as is. But I'm kind of like, do you guys remember when Unity and Take-Two and EA and a bunch of other I don't, maybe it wasn't EA as much, but it was definitely Take-Two and Unity. I think Roblox as well got hammered when that crazy Google Genie 3 got released, which would generate games, but not really. It generates like a couple of seconds of a world based on a picture you give it. Their shares got tanked, absolutely got dropped, and it was insane. It was like, what are the investors doing? But in a way, I think that's how a lot of these big big corporation CEOs think. They just think, well, we don't need game developers. We don't even need games because the AI eventually will make games. And so there is credence, I think, in this statement. It's worrying, isn't it? So yeah, we've read that. We won't read it again. The job of all these people is to just gently usher in all of these business units into the new world of AI. That's what you're seeing here. Whether or not you agree with it, whether you agree with AI having the potential to do that, whether AI was successful is a separate matter. But that's what we're seeing. That is in no way surprising. It would have been shocking if they had somebody in there in a meaningful role who's passionate about games, about the creator-driven business of games, because it would be in direct conflict with everything else Microsoft is doing. Microsoft is a company that is about enabling its customers, enabling AI to drive things. That is at odds with the auteur model of any art, but specifically of games. Microsoft doesn't have the problem that Apple does or Netflix does, where they have an auteur-driven content model to manage. Games are the only place where they have content business, and it's true that that is just empirically true. It just is true, and this is the worry, isn't it? It is worrying. So GamesBeat then say, good to see you after all these years, by the way. It's been a long time. Says, yeah, he's still plugging away. Yeah. Still in the same business I was 30 years ago. It's very strange, though. I wonder whether to take that at face value or taking some other way. The comment she made about we're not going to do AI slop. It's still about great games and all that. This concept was crazy. Imagine that. It would be crazy. It's like, I had a crazy case for one of my PCs, which had like a literal jet engine in it. Had like a massive, like, I think it was like a 300 mil fan or something crazy in it. It was like stupid. It was blue. I remember it had blue LEDs in it. Anyway, that was the sort of the 2010s, I guess. 2008, 9, 10, then glory years. Anyway, Blackley, you want to believe that? And B, that's what every single person who's been brought into games from other industries has said when they're hired. In every press release, probably going back longer than you and I have been in this business, I know that John Riccatello said that when he was brought in from sporting goods to EA. But that's just what occurs to people when they say they're bringing someone from an outside business in the game. So fair enough, yeah. You can't read too much into the statements of, we're going to focus on great games. Some people coming from outside businesses succeed in games and others just hit the wall because it's a content business and they don't expect that. They're not ready for that. They think it's a compute business, or they think it's a rendering business, or they think it's a software business. Games is none of those things. It's hilarious, but it's none of those things. Her statement, or the statement that was written for her in the press release saying that she was looking forward to seeing what makes games work or something like that, was hilarious. It reminded me of that meme, hello fellow kids. I'll now figure out what's interesting about games. Oh boy, wow. There may be more than you think. Yeah. People have succeeded at that before. Maybe she will. All right. So GamesBeat say, do you think the console still happens? Do you think there's a way they'll continue this strategy following Sega's strategy? And Blackley says, I think the rules are different now. Again, it's important to understand Microsoft in the context of scale of the bet. It's an unprecedented monetary and strategic bet they've made in AI in the history of business. It is. It's not just them, remember. It's all the other hyperscalers are involved with crazed amounts of CapEx spend. That is not the same as Sega deciding how to gracefully go out of business. This is a company that's trying to recontextualize the way we think about technology in its entirety. They decided that the lever point that's going to do that is generative AI models. They're looking to fit everything into a generative AI model. And almost like games are sort of like the generative AI model wet dream if they can get it to work. For the CEOs, anyway, not for us. It's fucking garbage. We just don't want generated games, please. Anyway, it's like the thing people say about having a hammer and everything is a nail. That's incredibly true of Microsoft right now. Everything is a Gen AI problem. Games, of course, are a Gen AI problem. This is why I say this makes perfect sense. If you're sat here, you have a hammer called Gen AI, and every single problem is a nail. Okay, so what do you do to put in charge of games? Or who do you put in charge of games? A games person? No, because in the world of Satya, everything is a Gen AI problem. So you put a Gen AI person in charge of games with a training model, with boot camps for her to train her like you train your AI models, to bring Gen AI into a position to revolutionize games. Where whether or not you believe that's possible, I think, is the question of whether or not you believe she can succeed in this. Whether or not you believe that's possible is the deciding factor in whether or not you believe Xbox will continue to exist and what you believe Microsoft will do with Xbox. And that's the question, right? Do you think Xbox will continue? I'm going to be honest. I think this is going like come and quote me back on this. In let's say a year, 2 years time, 3 years time, there's going to be more layoffs. There's going to be studio closures. There's going to be a homogenization of the Xbox strategy. So they're going to slim it down. They're going to focus more on AI in terms of generative content. In terms of slowly, you'll see it kind of coming in as an AI assistant. I think Microsoft already had this, which it assists you. I think Activision had this as well, but it can assist you in playing the game, or it may have been Sony. You'll see things like that, and this is going to be a very slippery slope, and it's headed by someone from their core AI division. So she's not just going to walk away from AI. She isn't coming into this and going to go, oh yeah, screw AI, I'm all about the people, let's start developing games. It's not going to happen. And again, that big specter of the return expected from AI investments isn't a return they're ever going to get from the Xbox division. So let's fuck the division off and just work on more AI stuff, or just turn it into another AI division. You know, I can imagine they sit there thinking, wow, if we could generate all these games, we'd be able to get capture a massive audience of gamers and then provide them tailored content just for them. The engagement will be endless. They'll never stop playing and yada, yada, yada. That ain't a world I want to live in. All right. So, yeah, our old way of thinking about things doesn't work here anymore because the mindset of the guys making the decisions has completely changed. They're living in a world where generative AI is the solution to the problems. And so the application of generative AI is the only solution that they need to think about. Once they've done that, the generative AI will then take over the problem. Whether or not you believe in that, like I said, is a deciding factor in whether or not you believe this will be a successful strategy. GamesBeat says, I wonder whether it's predictable to see where it shifts to. There was an interesting thing that Mark Zuckerberg said a while back when he was having success with his AI glasses. VR was not going the way he expected. He said that maybe the AI glasses would be the back door to the metaverse, and maybe he had been thinking about it the wrong way. Now, there's some chance that games still play some kind of role through something like AR glasses that combine with AI glasses. AR and AI in the same glasses, something that fits on your head normally rather than a big headset. Maybe this is the way we get to the metaverse. There was still the possibility that games will play some role in that AI glasses future. It's still possible that he's maybe spending all that money on Reality Labs for that reason, but I don't know what that means. Okay, well, that's a crazy thing to say, but whatever. So Blackley says, look again, it's dangerous to apply old thinking to a group of people who are thinking in a new way. These guys are not thinking about that problem that way anymore. In an emperor's new clothes kind of sense, it's hard to look at it in some ways because you have games, which is a proven huge business. We're somehow subjugating the proven huge business as part of a strategy to prop up a business that we're not sure will work or not. That's weird. That's weird, and I don't understand it. But obviously, these guys are very sure-footed about it. Sure enough that they're putting huge amounts of resources behind this, which is true. I remember Zuck's statement. It was interesting because he was basically saying that games are as uncertain a business as this AR thing, so maybe together they'll work. No games work as a business. He's culturally not seeing that somehow. There's a model where games are massively profitable and people become billionaires off games. But again, right now, the way we're looking at this, Satya is holding a hammer, and so Xbox has become a nail. That's where we're at. And GamesBeat go on to say, some of the moves also remind me of when Andrew Wilson became CEO of EA. Peter Moore was there. Peter did come in from the outside the industry, but he was still there. He was the number 2 guy, and they chose to pass over him in favor of a super young guy. Maybe this is going to be the 20-year CEO because she's young and she's got new ideas, like Andrew Wilson was. It could be a similar bet on the same kind of person. Blackley then says, but again, Ash's background is entirely in software as a service and AI. The implicit thing here is that games is going to be AI-driven software as a service. If that's true, she is a young person with those ideas, but she's not a young games person with CEO ideas. I understand where that strikes a lot of people as really fucking weird, because the games business is a different thing. One of the things I ran across in my career in games, having interfaced with Hollywood and tech and all these different companies and different cultures and business cultures, is that games almost always represent an unexpected, much higher than wagered challenge. One assumption is that technology, and it's not technology, it just happens to depend on technology. One assumes that it's a service, and it's not. One assumes that it's purely a creative business. People come in and say, we'll bring more movie directors and do games. They also fail because technology is an important part. It's a difficult wall to scale because it's games. One thing that I've learned, one thing that I've learned across my career is that everyone believes they're a game developer. Yeah, tell me about it. Everyone thinks they're a game designer. There's something about games that when you play them, they seem so effortless. There's an assumption that anyone can do it. This can also get you into a lot of trouble. Asha's statement in there about how she figured it out reminds me a lot of that. I've been around a lot of that. I've had Bill Gates say that to me. I've had Steven Spielberg say that to me. I've had a lot of really smart people say basically that line to me. It's funny for me to see that there as well. Now that I'm an old man, and that I've heard a lot of you typically hear that come out of the mouths of people who are about to hit a very thick concrete wall. Some of them, once they bounce off it and put some dressings on their wounds, are able to scale the wall and do great. Bobby Kotick is a great example. Peter Moore is a great example. Both of them came in and got very injured by the game industry because it wasn't what they thought, but they figured it out. Although I said that's debatable. Bobby Kotick's a wanker. The problem that we're discussing here, really, and the thing that's important to address, is that they were coming into games because they wanted to be in games. Asha is coming into games because her boss believes that games are going to be driven by AI. It's a very different approach. Completely agree with that. You can tell that they're really serious about games being fixed by AI because Madame doth protest. Sometimes it's hard reading interviews when they're sort of written almost as the person speaks, which I guess is what this should be written as, but whatever. Edited not for me to read, but I'm an idiot. So I do apologize about all that in this video. You can tell that they're let me read that again. You can tell they're very serious about games being fixed by AI because Madame doth protest so much about how they're not going to make slop and it's all human controlled. For anyone over a certain age with a certain amount of business experience, you recognize those words for what they are. I wonder whether gamers are going to be patient enough to accept such a person. Gamers are very patient. Gamers are very tolerant of being told what games are by people who are not gamers. They're very tolerant of copies of things. They're very tolerant of automated content. No, they're not tolerant of any of these things. That's right. I was like, what are we reading here? That's the wall she's about to discover and hit. Like a lot of things in life, you can't be told something is the way it is. I'm sure there are many things in journalism that are like this, and everyone new comes and thinks they can handle it. But when they actually have to handle it, they get crushed. So you say to them, I told you that you were going to have to handle this. Some people make it through and some people don't. And this is evident by the shitstorm on Twitter that she's already caused, really. Games seem difficult as a business still. Many years later, it's as hard as it ever was. And Blackley says, yeah, this is why it's so compelling. That's why we love it. Games are the combination of everything that's hard. It's an entertainment business, which is almost impossible. I was a partner at Creative Arts Agency, so CAA. I saw all of these creative business models fail continuously. From bankers to guys running studios to guys running record labels to publishers. Remember, I did all the mechanical licenses for Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I saw all of those things. That's almost impossible. Technology making a renderer, almost impossible. It's so hard to do. And then writing, you have to write the game. You have to do game design. It's almost impossible as well. You have to distribute it. You have to keep up with the changes in technology and the changes in customer taste. It's like the hardest parts of 4 or 5 different industries combined in one place. That's what makes it terrifying, but that's also what makes it so compelling. There's no other art form that can enthrall you in so many ways at the same time when it works. And when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. But when it works, there's nothing else that can do that. There's just nothing else. And it's true, right? I'm sure the best entertainment experiences you guys had have been games, right? You will remember the best games you've played for the impact they've had on you. Yeah, you also remember the best movies, the best TV series, the best live music, the best, whatever you go and see. But I think games are special because they're so interactive. The real question I have for Asha is, does she get that? If you don't get that, then you can't know if your AI is working to do that. Games is not a thing you can understand by viewing customer data, and I think a lot of people make that mistake, especially the CEOs and the people in charge of these gaming divisions. It's more multi-dimensional than that. People will say, well, artificial intelligence, generative AI is very good at understanding multi-dimensional data. Cool. I'm fairly mathematically sophisticated. I understand how AI code works because I've seen it, but this is different than that. My speech is kind of like, I want games to be what they were born to be. They can fulfill their destiny as an awesome industry, but even the data this week from Matthew Ball is showing that gaming is losing even more attention. Addiction is winning over fun. Games are fun, but sports betting, OnlyFans porn, and other forms of gambling, YouTube, social media, TikTok, these things are all winning the attention war. And again, I've covered that, so I'm going to go into too much detail on that. But it says the way you phrase that makes it sound like OnlyFans is a form of gambling, which I think is fascinating business that you should go and immediately start. Those sides are winning. The addiction side of things is winning. The fun side of things is not. Games follow a cycle, similar to winemaking or beer brewing. There's an addictive side to it that takes over. Sometimes the alcoholic nature of these things is more important to the business than the artisanal side. You see the importance of microbrew beer wax and wane. The presentation of winemaking waxes and wanes is the same thing. I'm guessing Blackley owns a microbrewery then, if you wanted to talk about that. With winemaking, the intention is to let the grape reach its maximum potential. That's the job. When you do that, you have a superior product. Then you do that and then you make a lot of money because business guys move in and want more of it. Then you lessen the quality of the product. The audience gets a little sick of it. Some people start to drink other stuff because it gets them drunk faster. Then the bottom falls out and it's out of favor for a while to allow the grape to reach its potential. The business is about something else. After that cycle, consumers get sick of that. And the one guy comes out and says, I'm a winemaker. I'm going to let the grape reach its full potential. There's a New York Times article 15 or 20 years later about this great natural wine movement, and we're back to that stage again. I think we see this in games. The big unknown in this addiction that all the big tech companies have bought about generative AI is and then AI girlfriends too. Blackley says, right, I'm sure, which I'm sure is healthy for you. Very healthy. We'll see where it goes. It's a strange thing. What iterations of me is she? She's the 5th iteration of me. Yeah. She's number 5. That's pretty cool. I don't think it would last that long. I didn't believe that for a second. But at the same time, I will say that the Seamus you met, or the you met a little bit. What is this? This has gone off on a tangent. Right, okay, we're back to Microsoft anyway. So it's gone off on a bit of a mad tangent there, but again, we're back to the topic. So we killed ourselves to maintain a very pure gaming message. This is purely for gamers. This is what it's about. We will not allow Microsoft to transform this into a Microsoft agenda device. That was important because people didn't believe that Microsoft could make something cool. They didn't believe that Microsoft could make something fun. They just didn't believe it. Here we are 5 generations later. The person taking over comes from the belly of the beast. That is interesting. There's a symmetry to this. I think younger me would be screaming about this and saying, what the hell? Why would you put somebody in charge of a record label who don't like records? Looking at it now, from my perspective, I probably still feel that way. I do still feel that way, as I've been saying, but at the same time, I understand exactly why it is. I know that, again, Satya is holding a hammer and everything is a nail. There is a nail with an Xbox logo on it. He's applied the AI person to it. He has to show shareholders and the press and the world that he is all in on this investment. He has to show them that he believes generative AI is going to fix games and make it profitable. He has to make this move. It doesn't matter what you think about it. I don't think he had any choice. I think that's the best. That's one of the best. That is the best explanation of this. That is just exactly what this is. This person the person I feel worse for is Sarah Bond, who is more than capable from a leadership standpoint. Super cool, actual gamer. I really like Sarah Bond. This is a crappy day for her. I just want to tell her that I'm thinking of her and that she's awesome. I did think that back in the day that it was a very odd collection of people on an Xbox. You, Ed Fries, Jay Allard, and Robbie Back, and Stephen Ballmer, and Bill Gates. A collection of opposites. Some of that still battling is still going. Some of that same battling is still going on here today. I guess different personalities, different approaches, and different backgrounds. Blackley says, yeah, with some perspective from being an older guy, in all these cases, it's never the balance. It's never this balance of people that makes something work. The balance is what enables something to happen. But you need to have an idea that people drive through that remains pure somehow. The balance enables it. We needed the money. We needed someone to back it. We needed the credibility of Microsoft. We had to give away enough of that purity so that the people who had the money to make it happen would let it happen without giving away too much. The question is really, if me at that age, if I had just been given the money to do it, it would have probably failed because I would not have had enough adult supervision for it to go. Did I like the adult supervision? No. But to say that people who were trying to block a project are responsible for it succeeding is also bullshit. People on that list tried to block it and then later claimed to be in support of it. Even you yourself were fooled by some of these people. I will tell you in retrospect. But there was an insurgency and it worked out. To some extent, we used their weapons against them. Some guys on that list are very egotistical, and I may have used their ego against them to get them to go along. So I suppose that's a bit of an insight into all the internal diplomacy and corpo crap that goes on inside these companies, because it is very complicated and complex, and everyone's out for themselves ultimately, and all this shit. They all want their big stock option pay packets. This is different from Asha. This isn't an insurgency. This is kind of like, we're hoping that the new person who's been put in charge of our department, who doesn't have any background in what we do, will not fuck us too much and will let us do the right thing. The game that Phil had been playing for a long time, managing the beast so that he could continue to try and do the right thing for gamers, I think that finally just wore him out. It's really hard to do that. If there's advice from you to help this person steer it in the right direction, what would it be? Two things. If I was talking to her, I would say, look, if you're not really passionate about games, or if you can't develop a passion for games, then you should find a way to leave this job soon. Legend. You shouldn't do it because it's harder than you think. You're a very smart person who's accomplished a lot in your career. You're going to think I'm wrong, but you will discover that I'm right. There's a long history of extremely smart people in games who have hit this wall as well. The second is if you can get the trust of the gaming community, then you can build a real business on the scale of the Microsoft AI business that will make you very powerful. But that happens if you gain the trust of the audience. If you gain the trust of the audience, if you want to look for people to emulate, you should look at Shuei Yoshida. I'd tell her to go and spend a day with Shu, go and spend a day with Peter Moore, go and spend a day with Phil Harrison, go and spend a day, if you can, with some of the guys from Nintendo. Find Reggie, spend a day with Reggie, go and talk to those leaders about how they succeeded and failed in the business. Learn from them. Don't try to make it up on your own. Go and get the data. They're all out there. I'm sure Reggie, there's recently departed executive from Nintendo who may be very interested for her to go talk to, right? That would be my advice. Go and talk to all of these people. I've lost my mouse pointer. Hang on. There we go. Maybe that's a reference to, is it Bowser? I think it was Bowser, right, who left Nintendo recently. But still, whatever. Obviously, the likes of Reggie and that would be good for her to talk to. But I get that's just not going to happen. Like, I think that's too backwards looking, right? It's just about what's the new horizon, this AI-driven horizon. I think that's ultimately what this is. In the end, if this isn't something you're really passionate about, I think she's clearly very passionate about e-commerce and about AI, but that's not games. Games are a passion business. The audience and everyone in the ecosystem reward that passion. At every industry event, at every award show, at every business meeting, at every fight that you have about shelf space, every fight you have about who gets what tariff and at what online store, everyone sits around for a minute and talks about what games they love and the passion they have about that. If you're not ready to hang like that, you're not going to do well in those meetings. Microsoft is not enough of a gorilla that someone who doesn't know what they're talking about can walk in and do things. And I think like that's the thing, isn't it? When you look at her communication on Twitter and the original press release, I guess, of her announcement of taking over the Xbox CEO role, it's like, I'm a gamer, guys. You know, I play GoldenEye, I play Firewatch, I like Valheim. You know, I also like Halo. Here's my gamer tag, and not really fully realizing that like showing a gamer tag off that's only been made for a few months is going to look shit to gamers. They're going to look at that and go, you're not a gamer. If it was fucking 10 years old or something, people would go, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. But it's not, you know. So again, that's misreading the situation, and it could be, like Blackley says, that's hitting like one of those walls really, and it's showing, You can't really communicate with these people because their passion is gaming. And I say this a lot. The internet's the biggest bullshit detector, and it will fucking hammer you if you start pretending you're something that you ain't. You've got to be authentic. So this is mental. Now, Kotaku's reporting this, but the new head of Xbox is worried about birth rates, but says AI will save us. 5 months ago, Asha Sharma talked about how AI could turn around declining fertility rates. What? You know what I mean? What? After the shock of resignation of Phil Spencer, so okay, we're not going to go over that again, but whatever. Why is someone with a background in AI and not gaming being put at the helm? And wait, she said, what about birth rates? Big tech's obsession with birth rate figures is something that should be certainly should make you feel uncomfortable, given it's usually about half a step removed from matters far more sinister, which is why it's so disappointing to hear Asha Sharma in an interview on a podcast from 5 months ago saying that the thing that she thinks about the most, other than GPUs, is whether her son will have classmates in the future. Thanks, Sam. This is because she says fertility rates are declining. The average birth rate in the 90s when we were growing up was like 3. Now it's 2.3. And in 2050, it's estimated to be below replacement. That is strange on its own and also completely wrong. But her next words make it far weirder. I think that AI can have such a big effect on it, and already is. Sharma goes on to give examples of this, like how she's heard about a hospital in London that's using AI to improve the fertility success rate of IVF, and the amazing story of how ChatGPT-5 is helping in healthcare, and how Stanford was a big customer of hers using AI for tumor reviews. Of course, the reason for the declining birth rates in the US is multifactorial, but almost certainly primarily about income, which it is. It's expensive to have children. In the affluent 90s, people felt confident about being able to afford 2 or 3 children, but in the 2020s, that's a far more costly prospect. If people in big tech were generally concerned about the number of children being born, their attention would wholly be focused on making Americans' lives more affordable, providing better benefits and support, and increasing wages, and not to say on replacing workers with ineffectual AI or driving industries that rely on paying low incomes. Okay, so The Verge, I know we've been through a lot in this video, but there's so much happening with this. I wanted to just stick it all in one big video instead of like doing multiple videos on it and stuff like that. So they're reporting on Inside Microsoft big Xbox leadership shakeup. Right then. Xbox fans have been anticipating the retirement of Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer for years, but what most hadn't expected was the departure of Xbox President Sarah Bond too. For many outside the company, Bond seemed like Spencer's natural successor, a deputy of sorts. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Microsoft CFO Amy Hood clearly didn't agree. Instead of picking Bond for the role, Microsoft promoted Asha Sharma, a former Microsoft AI executive, to the top of the Xbox. The decision to overlook Bond might have surprised many Xbox fans, but for the more than a dozen current and former Microsoft employees I've been speaking to, it's felt inevitable in recent months. Phil Spencer, Microsoft's long-term Xbox chief, made the decision to resign from Microsoft last year after a tough few years for Xbox. The giant Activision Blizzard acquisition had dragged on for longer than Microsoft had anticipated, and the need to grow the business saw Microsoft walk away from Xbox exclusive games in favor of a multi-platform strategy. Microsoft has also been trying to reinvent the Xbox brand beyond the console with mixed results. Spencer's decision led to months of careful, successive planning. It was announced to the world on Friday, but it was supposed to be today. Microsoft was forced to announce early because it had started to leak, and IGN was planning to run a story according to sources familiar with the situation. That kicked off a day of chaos, where teams inside Microsoft were hearing the news first through reporters and news outlets instead of via internal memos. The team running Sarah Bond's social media accounts was so unprepared that a LinkedIn post inviting people to provide feedback about Xbox accessibility features went live just before her departure was announced. It sat there for hours until Bond's team eventually posted her own memo. Microsoft executives shared 4 memos with Xbox teams on Friday, but only Phil Spencer mentioned Bond. Satya Nadella, Microsoft Gaming EVP, and Matt Booty, and new gaming. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I just heard like a catastrophic bang. I was like, what? I think something happened outside anyway. Where were we? Some of Xbox employees hadn't been speaking saw the writing on the wall for Bond last year. She was promoted to Xbox president in October 2023, just days after Microsoft finalized its $68.7 billion deal to acquire Activision Blizzard. Bond had been crucial in getting the deal over the line with regulators and slowly started to become the face of Xbox as Spencer took on the complicated duties of integrating a huge new business into Microsoft gaming. 6 months after Bond's promotion, Xbox executive Kareem Chowdhury, who reported directly to Bond, departed Microsoft and triggered another shake-up of some teams inside Xbox. Chowdhury was key to Xbox's backwards compatibility support and helped bring Xbox Cloud Gaming to life as xCloud in 2019. Just weeks after Chowdhury departed, former Xbox Chief Marketing Officer Jarrett West also left Microsoft in June 2024. That meant the Xbox marketing team was now reporting directly to Bond. A month later, Microsoft delivered a marketing campaign that signaled people didn't need to buy an Xbox console anymore. The message was that you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox because games are available through Xbox Cloud Gaming on TVs. This was all part of the Xbox Everywhere strategy that Bond had been pursuing, a vision to move the Xbox brand beyond its roots in console hardware. Months later, the This Is an Xbox campaign launched, with commercials that positioned a phone or a tablet as an Xbox instead of just a console. It was a confusing campaign, and I'm told it offended many Xbox employees internally. This Is an Xbox also debuted months after Bond appeared on stage at the Bloomberg Technology Summit and announced an Xbox mobile gaming store that was supposed to launch in July 2024. It still doesn't exist almost 2 years later. Although attempts to redefine Xbox were clearly tied to the mobile store efforts, Microsoft still went ahead with This Is an Xbox after the store was delayed. The pivot away from consoles, led by Bond under Spencer's direction, hasn't gone well for Xbox. Microsoft's Xbox hardware revenue has declined for 3 financial years in a row, and it looks like those declining revenues are going to continue throughout fiscal 2026. Most of the current and former Xbox employees I've spoken to in recent days are relieved that Bond is leaving Microsoft. I've heard from multiple sources that Bond has been tough to work with and built a team structure that meant if you didn't follow the vision or questioned it, you were out. Most have praised her ability to strike partnerships with companies and developers, though. Seems odd you could do one but not the other. I wrote in December 2024 that Bond had staked her career reputation on the idea of Xbox being everywhere across multiple platforms and devices. This also involved carefully managing her image both internally and externally, making her appear to be a gamer like Phil Spencer. In reality, she wasn't. But we've just heard that she was. From someone who would probably know, right? Interesting. I understand that Bond's strategy had been failing internally and been questioned multiple times. Bond had tried to push mobile and cloud over console to reach potentially millions more Xbox customers, but the result has been a classic case of chasing tomorrow's customers by neglecting today's. Phil Spencer's retirement had seemed inevitable to Xbox employees, particularly over the past year. In February last year, Spencer took a long vacation, and I'm told some teams had to wait weeks for sign-off on some key changes. Shortly after this vacation, rumours started circulating inside Microsoft that Spencer was getting ready to retire. Microsoft was eventually forced to deny the rumours in July, claiming Spencer wouldn't be retiring anytime soon. And again, that's the whole thing of when they say things like, you had Matt Booty recently saying there's going to be no layoffs, we've got no plans. It's like, yeah, but we might have next week. That's the way they roll. You know, if he was saying in July last year, I'm not going to retire anytime soon, then he retires immediately in, February the next year. That's pretty close time frame, right? I know it's like 6, 7, 8, 9 months away, but I mean, with Spencer's retirement official, Microsoft is hitting the reset button on Bond's Xbox strategy of embracing it further. Microsoft's gaming CEO Asha Sharma is now promising the return of Xbox in a clear message to employees that the strategy over the past few years has not been working. I want to return to the renegade spirit that built Xbox in the first place. Xbox employees I've been speaking to have been concerned about the Sharma appointment, particularly because of a previous role as an AI executive at Microsoft. There is also concern about her lack of industry experience in entertainment and gaming. Sharma's been clear she's not a gamer and has spent the weekend responding to people on X and even taking some game recommendations. Some Xbox employees worry she'll force AI into everything. Xbox does, but Sharma was clearly ready for that reaction. As monetization and AI evolve and influence its future, we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop, said Sharma in her memo. Games are and always will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. The other concern is that she's been appointed by Nadella as some kind of executioner of the Xbox console. Her memo doesn't suggest that, and Microsoft could have easily appointed Matt Booty into that kind of role to push games publishing instead of the Xbox console. I get the impression from sources that Microsoft wants a turnaround and is worried about losing Xbox, as it's one of its only remaining successful consumer brands. Those who know Sharma better describe her as enthusiastic, willing to learn, and very capable of getting teams to execute on a clear vision rather than coming in as a product executioner. She also has a history at Instacart and Meta of overseeing platform launches and getting people to use products, the type of user acquisition that Xbox has failed at in recent years. Sharma's non-gaming credentials don't mean she can't do a good job at Xbox, but it will still be a tough gig to step into the shoes of Phil Spencer, who is widely respected inside and outside of Microsoft. He will be remembered for the impact he had in turning Xbox around more than a decade ago. Xbox could have easily died after the Xbox One disaster, but Spencer made transformative decisions that have benefited the entire gaming community. Xbox led the way in consumer-friendly decisions like crossplay or allowing consumers to buy a game once and play it across both PC and console. Under Spencer's watch, Game Pass has also forced competitors to offer similar subscription services. Spencer is also departing at a time when the Xbox Series S and X generation has failed to put a dent in Sony's PlayStation sales, and during a period of turmoil in the game industry and within Xbox. Layoffs and studio closures have plagued the Xbox division after the Activision Blizzard acquisition, and there are big questions about Microsoft's gaming acquisitions, the side effect of its gaming pass push, and the future of the Xbox console itself. Spencer won't be here to answer them anymore. Sharma now has the opportunity to define the next 25 years of Xbox, which also, it's weird that Phil left just before the 25th anniversary, right? That's weird, right? You'd think probably would have wanted to stay for that, but maybe more fuel to the fire if he was thrown out, he was fired in favor of the AI executive. But we're about to find out if she can turn Xbox around and execute on a clearer strategy. The next 25 years belong to the teams who dare to build something surprising, something no one else is willing to try, and have the patience to see it through, says Sharma. We have done this before, and I'm here to help us do this again. So this is being reported by Jez Corden at Windows Central. Microsoft is reportedly considering adding World of Warcraft. Fallout first. I don't know what that is. Is that even a game, or do they just mean 76 or something? But I mean, isn't that free to play? But whatever, I don't know. The World of Warcraft is the big takeaway here. And Minecraft Realms, the Game Pass Ultimate, to increase value following the $30 price hike. I'm not like World of Warcraft in that maybe, but if you're a WoW player, you just play WoW, right? You ain't even got time to play anything else. You just do the whatever that costs now, $15, is it? I don't even know what it costs. Last time I subbed, it was $10, but I think it's more than that now, right? Right then, holy shit. So what's going on here with Xbox? This is going to be something you are going to see fallout very soon from this. There's going to be announced layoffs. There's going to be directional changes. I'm going to be very surprised if this is the start of a golden era of Xbox. The person now in charge of Xbox is not a gamer. She's an AI specialist. She's an e-commerce specialist. She is a corporate ladder specialist. It's going to be very difficult to see how she's going to even understand what gaming is. This isn't something, you can't just walk into a room and say, I'm a gamer, and you can't just spend a year, 2 years and say, I'm now a gamer. This is a world where people have spent their whole lives doing this. You know, the Xbox brand, if you're like a diehard Xbox fan, you've probably been hating the last few years because it's been not great. You know, I do think the decline in sales of the Xbox console have been bad. You know, that should have been something they should never allow to happen. And if Sarah Bond was the reason for that, and that's why she's been thrown out, maybe then that's credible. Maybe Asha's been brought on to fix these problems and get the teams executing on whatever plan they've got. I don't know. I'm very skeptical about this. I think the fact that she's from the AI division is always going to hang over her, unless she can just, I don't know, make radical changes. It's going to be interesting. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. My throat is destroyed. I've done too much talking today, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you soon.